pause and think, who doesn't get invited to speak at conferences? People who blow by those 3 milestones and auger themselves deep into the ground, those are the people who don't get invited to come up here. All the people you'll see over these 2 days are able to manage that risk and reward and haven't gone all the way into the ground. So if you hit that 3rd milestone, that's when you take that deep breath and say, maybe you have a certain amount of cash that you burn down to. Maybe your credit cards are starting to stack up. What is that level of stress? Maybe your weight is going up, or your hair length is getting long, you're getting a little raggedy. So an excellent BI dashboard found students to themselves to see how many employees they have, what their stress levels are, and how you manage that. So you get to that 3rd milestone, take a hard look at what you're doing and think about it. Hopefully you're all getting involved in some program like Techstars or something like that. If you're not the great Techstars around is you get a lot of mentorship, whether through a formal program or individually. And when you get a lot of mentorship, hopefully if you talk to 20 mentors on the same topic, 10 of them will say to go left, and 10 of them will say to go right. And we call that mentor whiplash. And that's a healthy thing. It means you're struggling with a hard problem. And all good mentors should end their advice with, but it's your company. And then puts it back on the entrepreneur and they're like, oh, there's no one out there with the magic answer to say, should we go left or should we go right? However, if you talk to 20 mentors and 18 of them say, go left, you might want to consider taking their advice. And working with the Founder Institute, one of the key criteria we're looking for in applicants is to make sure that they're flexible. If you show up and you're just dead certain that you're right about your particular idea, and you're not open to that coaching or flexibility, you will get schooled. Maybe by the mentors at first, but that's just people talking. But then you'll get schooled by the marketplace, customers and venture capitalists and all that, if you're not on the right track. I think in business is like a combination lock, and there's 100 settings you've got to get right. And it's a constant spinning of those knobs to try and solve and crack that problem. So we'd like to talk about my main thesis, which is I think business is about people. If you get the people part right, then you can persevere and work your way through and be very flexible in your approach to business. I'm not sure how to advance the slide. Victor?
Right behind you.
On the couch.
Right here, right here. There we go. So this is the quitting slide, right? Try to wake you up when to quit. Let's talk about team building. When starting a company, these are 3 roles. If you're a founder, you should think about having 3 people on your founding team. There's a little bit of magic to that. Less than 3 people, damn, there's just a lot of work to do. Having 3 people gives you enough horsepower to get something done. Having more than 3 people, the coordination gets a little tricky, and the overhead of keeping track of who's doing what. So there's some other magic to it. 3 types of people. I call these mousetrap people. They're the ones who build stuff. GTM people are go-to-market people. They sell stuff, channels, pricing, competition, all that. And then FinOps. They're the people who worry every day about cash flow and leases and all the junk that has to happen so that the mousetrap people can build and the sales people can sell. And having all 3 of those in your founding team is very, very important. Oftentimes when I meet startups, they're all mousetrap people. SendGrid started with 3 developers on the board of Precog, the cloud company, and then you had probably 12 of their 14 people are all mousetrap people. And if you have a company like that and you raise a seed round and a year goes by, what does your business look like? Built some cool shit. How are sales? 0. How's cash? 0. But you need people who worry about cash and worry about sales just as much as you need people who worry about product. There's another interesting dimension why 3 is important. You'll make many decisions as a founding team. Where to locate your office, what your core technology should be, what your name should be, all this stuff. In every decision, there'll be a champion. Wow, we should get the Techstars, that'd be great, let's go do that program. And some will be a skeptic like, well, it's going to cost a lot of equity, we got to move the folder, blah, blah, blah. And then someone's got to be the arbiter. They got to kind of weigh, well, it could be great, could be horrible. And what a healthy team has is 3 people passing those roles around. So you don't always have one person being the champion living off in Pleasantville, you have one person being the heel or grump over here. You want to see that nice balance. Now imagine if you're a solo founder, how hard this is. Are you a product person, are you a market person, or are you a finance team? Are you the champion or the skeptic? Or are you the one who's balancing things? You have to be pretty heavily schizophrenic to do that on your own. Now I've seen teams of two do the success stories, but that's a hard trick to pull off. You need to really have that third key advisor or early investor who can be a trusted person in your organization. At the StartupGrind in Denver, I talked about the 4 H's. I think part of making an organization work is having cultural consistency. And it doesn't matter what your cultural consistency is, as long as it's consistent and it's your culture. At SendGrid, we have the 4 H's. Stand for honest, hungry, humble, and happy. This came from 2003 when I'd been fired from my second professional job. That time was as a VP of sales. I'd been fired as a CFO before. And what you find in conflict is two value systems of running into each other. And then you can abstract and say, what were those two different values that were bumping into each other? When I was a CFO, I liked to play it wide open. I'd tell employees their cash balance or burn rate, whatever they wanted to know. I'd tell our board that too, which our CEO didn't like. That's why I got fired. But our CEO, he liked to play it close to the vest. He operated on a need-to-know basis only. If you did your job, and you did your job, and you did your job, and you did your job, I'll take care of the whole, you don't need to worry about it. So there's this natural conflict. It's not that his way was wrong and my way was right, although that happens to be the case. They're just different. So the honest verbally came from the sense of transparency. Hunger, the sense of initiative. I like to come up with interview questions for things. Our interview question for honest is, tell us about a time when you bent the rules. Or tell us a time when being honest has cost you something. You get some great stories from applicants with good questions like that. The hunger value is really around initiative, about what have you done to start or create it. Certainly everyone in this audience would be very high on the hunger value. It's also balanced, though, by the humility value, the third value. Is that the sense of being able to learn from others? What did you have to learn from others? We've all seen the salespeople who tend to lower themselves over others, or we had a person at SendGrid who was a developer. He thought he was on Mount Olympus, he just sits there and throw lightning bolts at people. Well, that's no way to work. That's not part of the humility culture we want to have. But that hunger-humble duality is a very powerful combination. It applies to all roles in the organization. The fourth value is what usually surprises people, the happy value. In a moment we'll talk about rainbows too, so this is the rainbows and unicorns part of it. But the happy value, the interview question is, what do you do for fun outside of work and family? And what we find there is we want a passion story. What is something that you do that you have goals and you're driven towards, again, you show that initiative. Your other values will show up in the, or if you were in the evening program, I think the presenter there threw me under the bus for being an addict, because I like to run. And I love that one has particular goals. It's really curiosity that drives me. And people have those goals that drive towards things. So the happy stories, the passion stories really make a very interesting workplace. One reason I don't have a slide on it for you is I think the key thing is your cultural values are real, you never write them down. You use them for your interview process, but you still don't write them down. Those questions I talked about, not written down. It's just everyone in the company knows that's how we interview. They know what the 4 H's are. They know to get into the company, you have to go through that process. Then you use your cultural values as part of the onboarding process, which we call Camp SendGrid. Quite a lot of fun. We're in Fort Lauderdale last week. So you do the onboarding, and then you do quarterly review process, and all the way through termination. You hire and fire on values first. There was some chatter this week on some internet site I was on about, would you really, hire for culture versus subject matter expertise when push comes to shove? I was like, of course. Why is that even a question? And they're trying to say, but what if this person is a super good programmer and needs a super good programmer to do stuff? Easy. Don't hire them. Contract with them. Keep them at arm's length. If it's not part of your cultural fit, they don't get the blue shirt. Right? They don't get to join the team. I make a lot of decisions every day, but I don't decide what to wear. I wear this every day. You work at our company, there's that sense of team. If you're on that team, you have to meet those criteria. We have 4 hiring criteria. 1 is culture, 2 is subject matter expertise, 3 is geography, and 4 is matrix. You got to fit in the salary, equity, job title. We are not flexible on culture. We are not flexible on skill. We are flexible on geography. We have people in Uzbekistan and Romania and Philippines and all over the place. And we are somewhat flexible on the matrix, about what your salary is and what your options are, what your title is. We can kind of be flexible on that. We're still a small company, although we are a little over 100 people. And getting the cultural consistency makes everything much, much more smooth in your organization. So you can focus on building things and selling things, and you're not just butting heads on unnecessary cultural friction. Now let's talk about the rainbow. How many of you have a liberal arts degree? Yeah, going through the field. A lot of engineers I got. I went to Lincoln Mary, it's a very liberal arts school, and people say, what's the value of liberal arts degree? Well, when you're starting a company, let's say our big mission is to take the green hill over here. Well, I've got an MBA, I went to school, there's a